Okay, so let's look at here on Ray Benezer Yisrael. Shabir Khan the Fidarko explains what? The Iri Khan besod Tachas Adinim Ayida Hachzaras Adinin the Makum Shorsham as the din go back to their place, Elyon Ein Sham their upper place, I guess the place of their root. V'lezech v'bir Khan Bezel Lashona Bedilog is Galian Adinim. So that's what it is that if there appear, it was talking previously, that is the Zohar High was talking about the fact they appear on the skin, im tagvia misham oridecha v'nim takim. So he's talking about dinim here. If they get to a high place, in other words, they become very powerful, then we need to bring them down, and that's a lashon tshuva, I guess, adkan. Ulike of an also in tagvia hadinim akashim as oridim ayedewat hamtachas adinim b'shorsham, and that's what we need to do. Okay, so that brings us past that spot, and now we're gonna go back and take a look at the next pasuk. The next pasuk, which we're going to try to understand. 1 second. Okay, here we go. So the pasuk says, "V'totze ha'aretz Desheh." We're at the top of the page. Amasai, when kad shma isnata. Now I think shema, it sounds like the name, the word name, the way it's vocalized. I was thinking that there is where it's planted. I think I like that better. So we'll try to see if we can sort that out. So when it's planted there, then avira nafik, and at that point, what happens is there is a vapor or an air of some sort that comes out. V'nitzutza is damen, and the sparks are prepared. Now, what are we talking about? He says there's some concept of v'totze ha'aretz Desheh. Desheh emasai, we need to know what Desheh is. When is that? After being planted. And then he says, Ugaden, and then after that, avira nafik. It causes an avira to come out. V'nitzutza is damen. Okay, so you need to know what avira is and what are these nitzutzas he's talking about. So we want to take a look at this blurb, this little blurb he has at the beginning, and let's see if we can make some sense out of it. He says, Achashabir le'el b'sif zayin. He says, Tad she'ha'aretz Desheh, besod iver zer v'nuk. So this pasuk Tad she'ha'aretz, the aretz is a lashon nuk. Choizer b'atach of the bar pasuk shel achrav. Then we're going to come. There's another pasuk comes right after v'totze ha'aretz Desheh, and the land will bring out Desheh, besod latest is zer v'nuk. So that Desheh, he's saying, is now the same thing as the concept of zun. V'yivora b'pesha b'pasuk zera b'nukva v'nizker inin hanukva hanikvutz eitz pri. So in this, the nukva, which is called by the name the eitz, the fruit-bearing tree, ki ayrega v'la'achra later, because it's talking about after they're born. The dechidach of v'nigdal zer anpin, because there's an order to this. First, zer anpin grows, levado, by himself, b'mochid gadlus, and he begins to receive mochid gadlus. B'bechin netiya. V'rak la'achar mekan, so only after this, negdelas gam hanukva besod v'yatach of Hashem Elokim, canal that Hashem then planted this. Okay, this is in SIFRA. So v'hide behemshech, and continuing on here, Yivur inyan tikun gugolta, we're actually explaining the tikun of the gugolta, the zer anpin, which is something I'd like to know more about. He says, anisake be'ez gadlus, the zer anpin, that takes place as zer anpin grows, and he comes to the position of mochid gadlus. But the zer of yakni, the voyer atas, and now we'll come now, and we're going to explain inyan hamshachas mochim hamakifim, the makifim. Now, where do we get to this? I'm not sure. So I don't know how we got to this. So he says, let me read it again. Now it's first it prefaces and it says like this: Ata inyan hamshachas mochen the mekipim. How is it that the mochen the mekipim, which I don't know, it's the lam and mem that tzelem sounds like the godless. The zer anpen asher al yadam nisaken the gugolta the zer anta that it is from the mekipim that the gugolta of zer anpen is misaken. Now, there is some arichos on number aleph, but I think I want to read the idea before we start getting into the notes. It's a lot of times helpful to me. So he said, B'yom ha'shlishi, number tes vav, he says, in B'yom ha'shlishi, l'maisa bereshis, l'achar shene'emer, after it says this phrase, Desheh ha'aretz Desheh. So it's a collection of planting. Shuhu sod iver zer v'nuk anikroim Desheh. In this point, they're called the Desheh. So Desheh's lashon, I don't know, it's like a vegetable or life form. V'nikra b'Desheh b'soch me'ima hanikras eretz canal, as we said. There's a note on this. It says, Azai ne'emer b'pasuk, there it says, and therefore it says in the pasuk, v'totzeh ha'aretz Desheh, let the land bring out Desheh. Desheh, I looked at it, it's the Gematria 305, which doesn't mean anything to me particularly. He says, Shuhu sod yitzias v'ledus zer v'nuk. This is the secret of that. Hanikroim Desheh mimei ima hanikratz aretz. So they're coming out of the womb of Ima, which she is called in this case aretz. V'hinecha b'maimer tadsheh ha'aretz Desheh, and that this mimer shall shas ha'ivor at the time of gestation ne'emer b'pasuk. The pasuk says like this: Eitz pri osipri. The hainu zer v'nuk. So we have two. One is the tree that has the fruit. Eitz pri, a fruit-bearing tree. Osipri, that actually makes fruit. Hainu zohar v'nuk. Ki hanukva nikras eitz pri v'zohar nikra osipri. Vehikdim pasuk as a nukva, but here we see that the nukva is mentioned first. Shehi eitz pri, which is the fruit-bearing tree. It's mentioned first before the zohar, shuhu osipri, which is the force or the energy that makes the tree, makes the fruit, but the bearing of the fruit is the nuk. Ki b'shasa iver, hanukva kodem is the zohar v'anal, because at the time of gestation. 1 second. Iver hanukva kodem is the zohar canal. The nukva becomes before the male. Amnam kan b'maimer b'totzeh ha'aretz Desheh, but here it says like this: Ne'emer rak eitz osipri shuhu zer anpen. Only we're talking about that. Hisach v'chavelo hizker klal, the concept of eitz pri, the fruit-bearing tree, shehi hanukva. L'horas the zer anpen hu ha'ikar. That's a strong statement. So, but he explains, the zer anpen hu ha'ikar v'hanukva tefelo lov. Ki yitzias a binyan a nukva na'asach yedecha v'zer anpen. You don't have a nukva unless it's fed by zer anpen. Al zera shows, so he asks this question: when do we see this? Shma isnita. So let's see, it's shma or it or shama. Shuhu la'achar natias. I think it sounds like shama, but he said shuhu la'achar natias v'gadla zer anpen, after he's planted. Okay, I guess it means that all the flow from Abba V'Ima, etc., from up above is coming into him. Shuhu sod shem havaya. So here we have the name. So let's go back. Just let me go back because I'm tracing it down. Kad shma isnata. So now he says when the name is planted. So now it sounds like name. Rishan saleda nizgala rak zer anpen. Then you only see at the time of this, at birth, zer anpen. Godless their anpen, so you have to have, according to this, in order to really feed the nook and to build her up, you have to bring godless into their anpen natia as something's planted in it. Oz Meir Zer Anpin Ba'achrav, then he's able to shine to his backside, upon the parts of a nukva, and he can build up the parts of the nukva. Now this is fairly simple, I think. So now we're talking about, let's talk about this, the growth of Zer Anpin. So, okay, 1 second. Okay, we'll do it like this. Okay. Besod Kabbalah's Mochin the Mekifim Shal Abba Va'ima. So this inyan of his Makabal Mekifim from Abba Va'ima. So the Kifim, like I say, are the Lama, the Mem. He's not dealing with the tzaddik. He's talking about what actually, I mean, get his words right. He says, from the bottom of the other one, Inyan Godless Zer Anpen, Besod Kabbalah's Mochin, where he's going to receive the Kolas of Mochin, the Mekifim, Shall Abba Ve'ima, then, once he receives the Mekifim, Avira Nafik, it causes an Avira to come out. Ki Az Yatzach and Netzach and Hod, that comes out from Netzach and Hod, Netzach Hod Yisod, the Nai, the Abba, Bechinet Mekifim de Mochin de Abba. Sheshorshim bebechinet Chesed Elyon hanikra Avira. There's a lot of different words in there. He says that from the Naya of Abba, he didn't say Naya of Ima, he just said an Naya of Abba, comes out in Bekinis and the Bekibin de Mochin de Abba. Sheshorshim bebechinet Chesed Elyon hanikra Avira. So this is a little bit confusing. What is the Chesed Elyon? He says it's the Chesed Elyon. It's called the Avira. What Avira is he talking about? Is he talking about the Avira which is above the Mochas Timah? What Avira is he talking about? So he said from that Avira, V'nitzutza is damen, Ukamo kain is damen v'yatsa v'netzach and hod yisod, from the night. He's at the Ima, now he comes over to Ima. B'bechinas makifin de mochin de Ima. So there's two sets of makifin here. Shorshim bebechinas gevura, that have a root in the concept of gevura. V'agur boy al yonim hanikras nitzutza. So one more time for me, he says shorshim bebechinas gevura al yonim. Those are these makifim of Ima. He said they come out from the root of the gevura el yona hanikras nitzutza, which is called spark. Why is it called that? The height of Butzina de Cardenusa, that he said, I guess he wants to say that the Botzina, the Cardenusa, or Botzina and Nitzutza go together. V'hinera bekoach mochim makifim elu, nisakem bebechinas hagogolta. So from these mochin, which are once again, these are makifim, the oris of the oris makifim, elu nisakem bechinas hagogolta, it builds the aspect of the gogolta shel zer anpin. We're going to get into that. So we're getting close to, let's see if we can do number Aleph down below. Just trying to figure out how we can see where we're coming from. So he says, let's go in the blurb where it says Vihine, and we'll do the best we can. I don't know if we'll make it through. Vihine b'hemshech Divur inyan tikun gulgolta de zer anpin. So we want to know about that. The hanisaken be'ez godless de zer anpin, which of course requires godless. But the zachav yakni de v'chav ata inyan hamshachas mochin de bekifim. So now we're going into the inyan of the flow of the streaming of the mochin de bekifim, the godless de zer anpin, asher al yadun de sakin hagogolta de zer anpin. Now somehow we got into the concept of the Gegolta, the Zer Anpin, and let's just read a little bit of this in a couple of minutes that we have left over here. And look at number Aleph. He said, Rabbi Haraz L'Holon, in the Eitz Chaim, he said, Bebicha Be'inyan Mochin the Bekifim Eluch HaNekroim Bechina Revius, which is called the fourth Bechina. Asher Al Yada Nisakin the Gegolta Ein Sham. So I don't know how we got to the fourth Bechina. I'm not sure where we're coming from. He says, they come and they flow through the godless of Zer Anpin. Ki hine yu'un sham the bechinach hashishis shall mochim elu. Hem makifim, the tefillin are the makifim of the tefillin. Now this is all things that I don't know these bechinas that he's talking about, but does he mean to say that we're talking about the Gugolta, the Zeranpin, and as a result of that, we're talking about, that's why we're talking about the 7 different bechinas of the Gugolta of Zeranpin, could be. They come immediately as the Zer Anpin is growing. So he says, Ofen kedeis be'etz chaim, he said, v'zel l'shono, b'vada b'techilas b'techila. His chiluch of the tzeis and makifim ala tefillin. So tefillin are on the outside of the head. Ki harei ha'ish chayav mitzvahs tefillin tekef acher hiyusach b'bein yud gimel shonim v'yom echad. He says this is where the tefillin come out. Now, this whole thing is a little bit over my head. He said, okay, ad kan. So what was that statement? Ki harei ha'ish chayav mitzvahs tefillin. It's higher than the mitzvahs tefillin tekef acher hiyoso, immediately after him being there. Okay, I think I lost my chavrusa, but I'm going to finish this out. We'll come back to it tomorrow again. Acher Yusuf ben Yud Gimel Shana v'Yom Echad Ad Kan. In the Behemshech HaSifra D'Tzniut, as we go along, he says, "Mevar shebe'es tikun gulgolta d'zer anpen umuven hetev al pia eitz chaim sham shekasa de la'achi yitzias mekifin de tefillin." That after we have the Yitzia of the Tefillin, Koshana Azabel Yud Gimel V'Yom Echad, Azai then Nisaknim Shevat Tikkunim Gugolta, we have a tikkun that takes place in the Shevat Tikkunim of the Gugolta, the Zer Anpin, B'Shevat Shanim Mishnas Yud Gimel Ad Shnas Kaf, Ayin Sham V'Nirim Mashin is boil along. We're going to get into it more, and that's the whole shir for today.